I should have known something was wrong 3 months before Miami. That's when Emily stopped reaching for me in bed. We'd been married for 2.5 years, together for 3 total. The kind of relationship everyone envied. We'd met at a coffee shop when she'd accidentally grabbed my oat milk latte. We'd laughed, exchanged numbers, and 6 months later I'd proposed on the same corner where that coffee shop stood. Fast, yes, but it felt right. Emily felt right. She was quiet in a way that made you want to know her better. Reserved, but warm once you got past her walls. She worked remotely as a freelance graphic designer, which meant she was home most days in our 2-bedroom apartment in Portland. I was a regional sales manager for a medical devices company, traveling 2 or 3 days a week, but always coming home to her. That was our rhythm, until it wasn't. It started small. She'd be on her phone during dinner, texting someone, and when I'd ask who, she'd say just a client and put it away. But her smile would be gone. She stopped cooking. We used to cook together every Sunday. Big, elaborate meals we'd eat throughout the week, and started ordering delivery instead. When I'd try to talk about my day, she'd nod, but I could see her mind was somewhere else. "Are you okay?" I asked one night in January, after she'd barely touched her pad and had spent the entire meal scrolling through Instagram. "I'm fine," she said, not looking up. "Just stressed about work." "Want to talk about it?" "Not really." That became her default answer to everything. "Not really. Not now. I'm tired. Maybe later." The sex stopped entirely in February. I'd try to initiate a hand on her hip in the morning, a kiss that lingered too long, and she'd stiffen, pull away gently, and murmur something about a headache or being exhausted. At first, I was hurt. Then I was worried. Then, slowly, I started to get angry. Was she having an affair? I hated myself for thinking it. Emily wasn't that person. She was loyal, honest, almost painfully sincere. When we'd first started dating, she'd told me about her family tragedy, her twin sister, Emily. Yes, they'd had the same name, Emily and Emma. Their mother's idea of being cute had died in a car accident 5 years before we met. She still had nightmares about it sometimes. She'd wake up crying, and I'd hold her until she fell back asleep. That was the Emily I knew. Wounded, but working through it. Faithful. Mine. But the woman sitting across from me at dinner, the one who flinched when I touched her, who disappeared into the bathroom for 20-minute phone calls she claimed were about client revisions. I didn't know her anymore. "I think we should do couples therapy," I said one night in early March. She finally looked up from her phone. "Why?" "Because we're not okay, Em. You know we're not." She was quiet for a long time, her fingers still on her phone screen. Then she said, "I know. I'm sorry. Work has just been overwhelming. And I've been thinking about Emma a lot lately. Her birthday was last week and I've been in a dark place." Emma, her dead sister. Of course. How could I be angry at her for grieving? "I'm sorry," I said, immediately softening. "I didn't realize. Do you want to talk about her?" "No," Emily said, but her voice cracked. "I just need some space, some time to process." "Of course, whatever you need." That was my first mistake, giving her space. 2 weeks later, Emily announced she was going on a girls' trip to Miami with her friend Jenna. "Just for a long weekend," she said, already packing her suitcase on our bed. "Thursday through Monday. Jenna's been going through a rough divorce and she needs to get away. I thought it would be good for both of us." I should have been relieved. Emily getting out of the house, spending time with friends, maybe coming back refreshed and ready to reconnect. Instead, I felt a spike of panic. "That sounds great," I said, trying to sound supportive. "Which resort?" "The Fontainebleau. Jenna got us a deal." "Nice. You'll have fun." She didn't look at me, just kept folding clothes, the yellow bikini I'd bought her last summer, 3 sundresses, her favorite sandals. "I hope so. Can I drive you to the airport?" "Jenna's picking me up. We're flying out together." Of course she was. I watched Emily pack, and a terrible thought crept into my mind. What if this isn't a girls' trip? What if she's meeting someone? I shoved the thought down. I was being paranoid. Jenna was real. I'd met her twice. A loud, funny woman who worked in HR at some tech company. And Emily had never given me a real reason not to trust her. Just distance. Just silence. The night before she left, I tried one more time. We were in bed, the lights off, her back to me. "Em," I said softly, "I love you." A pause. Then, "I love you too. When you get back, can we talk? Really talk? About us?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Yeah, we can talk." She left the next morning while I was in the shower. No goodbye kiss. No, "I'll miss you." Just a text when I got out. "Flight's boarding. See you Monday." I stood in our empty apartment, dripping water on the hardwood floor, and realized I couldn't do this. I couldn't sit here for 4 days wondering if my marriage was ending. I couldn't just wait. I was going to Miami. I called my assistant, Karen, and told her I had a family emergency. She didn't ask questions. Karen had been with me for 5 years and knew when to just say, "handled," and clear my schedule. Then I booked a flight. There was a red-eye, leaving Portland at 11 p.m., arriving in Miami at 7 a.m. Friday. First class, because I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about salvaging my marriage. The plan was simple. Surprise Emily, take her to that fancy seafood restaurant she'd mentioned wanting to try, remind her why we fell in love in the first place. Maybe the distance had been my fault. Too much travel, not enough presents. Maybe she just needed to see me try. I packed a bag with my nicest clothes. I even bought flowers at the airport. A dozen red roses roses that the florist promised would survive the flight in a special water tube contraption. On the plane, I couldn't sleep. I kept rehearsing what I'd say. Emily, I know things have been hard. I know I haven't been the husband you needed, but I'm here now. I'm all in. Let's fix this. It sounded good in my head. Romantic. The kind of thing that would make her cry happy tears and fall back into my arms. The flight attendant offered me champagne. I accepted, thinking I'd toast to new beginnings. Instead, I just held the glass and watched the darkness outside the window, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. What if she didn't want to be surprised? What if I was making things worse? But I was already on the plane, already committed. We landed in Miami at 7:14 a.m. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange that seemed absurdly cheerful. I grabbed my bag, clutched my roses, and took an Uber to the Fontainebleau. The Fontainebleau was exactly the kind of place Emily would love, sprawling, luxurious, right on the beach. I checked in at the front desk, asking for a room, but not mentioning my wife was already a guest. I didn't want them calling her room and ruining the surprise. We have a suite available, the clerk said, typing. Ocean view, king bed. Perfect. I went up to my room, 1847, 18th floor, and immediately felt ridiculous. I was at a 5-star resort, holding roses, about to ambush my wife on her girls' trip. What was I thinking? But I'd come this far. I showered, changed into linen pants and a white button-down resort casual, I thought, and texted Jenna's husband, Mike. Mike and I had met at a barbecue last summer. Nice guy. Worked in construction, talked a lot about his boat. Emmy, hey man, random question. I'm actually in Miami for work. Thought I'd surprise the girls and take them to dinner. You know where they're staying? Emily said Fontainebleau, but I forgot to get the room number. I waited, my heart pounding. This was the moment of truth. If Mike confirmed Jenna was with Emily, I was just a loving husband doing a grand gesture. If not, 3 dots appeared. Then, Mike, dude, Jenna's not in Miami. She's at her mom's place in Seattle. Has been all week. Her mom's sick. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. Me, what? Mike, yeah, sorry man. Jenna told me Emily needed a solo weekend or something. Didn't want to worry you. I figured you knew. A solo weekend. Emily had lied. She wasn't here with Jenna. She was here alone. Or worse, not alone. I stood in my hotel room, my reflection staring back at me from the mirror, and felt the world tilt. My romantic gesture had just become something else entirely. A paranoid investigation. I grabbed my phone and opened Find My Friends, the app we'd both installed years ago, just in case of emergencies. I'd never used it, never felt the need. Her location loaded. She was at the resort, main pool area. I walked out of my room, rode the elevator down, and followed the signs toward the pool, my legs moving on autopilot. The roses were still in my hand, wilting in the Miami heat. The pool area was massive. Multiple pools, hot tubs, dozens of cabanas and loungers, probably 200 people scattered around in various states of relaxation. I scanned the crowd, looking for her, and then I saw her. She was at a cabana on the far side of the main pool. The yellow bikini, the one I'd bought her at Target last July. The one she'd worn once to our friend's pool party and said made her feel self-conscious. She was wearing it now. Her hair was down, wet, like she'd just been swimming. She was lying on a cabana bed, a frozen drink in her hand. Relief washed over me. She was alone, just having a solo relaxation weekend, like Mike said. Maybe she really was just stressed. Maybe I'd been paranoid for nothing. I started walking toward her, already planning my entrance surprise, humor, roses, when a man appeared. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair and the kind of build that suggested he worked out regularly, but not obsessively. Board shorts, no shirt, tan. He was carrying 2 drinks and smiling. He sat down on the cabana bed next to Emily, next to my wife. She laughed at something, he said. A real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard from her in months. Her head thrown back, her hand reaching out to touch his arm. I stopped walking. I was maybe 30 feet away, partially hidden behind a tiki bar. The man leaned down and set one of the drinks on the small table next to the cabana. Then he turned back to Emily, said something I couldn't hear, and traced a line down her shoulder with his finger. It was intimate, familiar, the way you touch someone you know. Emily's smile softened. She looked up at him with an expression I recognized. It was the way she used to look at me. Comfortable, safe, home. And then he leaned down and kissed her. Not a quick peck, a real kiss. His hand on her face, her hand on his chest. I don't remember deciding to move. 1 second I was frozen behind the tiki bar. The next I was running toward them, the roses falling from my hand, my voice tearing out of my throat before I could stop it. Emily. The whole pool seemed to go quiet. Or maybe it was just that my ears were ringing, my pulse hammering so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Emily's head snapped up. She saw me. Her face drained of all color. Her eyes went wide, not with surprise, with terror. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. The man she was with stood up immediately, instinctively stepping between her and me. Protective, like he had the right. I was 10 feet away from them now, my hands shaking, my vision tunneling. Emily, who the hell is he? My voice was too loud. People were staring. A lifeguard stood up from his chair, watching nervously. The man looked at me. He wasn't angry. He was just confused. He had a kind face, soft brown eyes, the beginnings of smile lines around his mouth. He looked like a good guy, which somehow made everything worse. I'm I'm sorry, pal, he said, his voice calm and measured. Do I know you? You're scaring my wife. The words didn't compute. My wife. He said my wife. I laughed. It was a horrible strangled sound that came out more like a sob. Your wife? She's my wife. We've been married for 2.5 years. Emily, tell him. Tell him. I was looking at Emily now, at my wife, my Emily, and she was shaking, trembling so hard I thought she might collapse. She couldn't look at me. She was staring at the ground, her arms wrapped around herself. Emily, I said again, my voice breaking. What is happening? Tell him who you are. Tell him we're married. Tell him. The man cut me off. His voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now. Confusion giving way to alarm. I don't know what's going on here, but my wife's name is Sarah, not Emily. Sarah, do you know this man? Sarah? I stared at him, then at her, then back at him. What are you talking about? I said. Her name is Emily. Emily Grace Hartwell. We got married in Portland 3 years ago at the courthouse on Oak Street. She's a graphic designer. Her favorite food is pad thai. She has a birthmark on her left hip that looks like a butterfly. Stop, Emily whispered. Her voice was so quiet I barely heard it. Please stop. Stop? I was shouting again. I flew 5 hours to surprise you. I thought maybe you needed to see me try, to see that I care, and instead I find you here with him, letting him. Mark, she finally looked up at me. There were tears streaming down her face, but her expression wasn't guilt. It was grief. Deep, bottomless grief. Mark, I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? Sorry for cheating on me? Sorry for lying about Jenna? Sorry for everything, she said, her voice cracking. I'm sorry for everything I've done to you. The man, Sarah's husband, was looking between us now, his confusion morphing into something else. Suspicion. Hurt. Sarah, what is he talking about? Who is this person? She was crying harder now, her whole body shaking. She couldn't speak. I took a step closer. Emily, tell him. Tell him the truth. Tell him you're my wife. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Recognition and resignation. Mark, she whispered. My sister, Emily, she didn't just move away 5 years ago. She died. She died in a car accident. You knew that. I told you. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I know, baby. I know she died. I'm sorry. I know this is hard for you, but what does that have to do with... No, she said, cutting me off. Her voice was stronger now, harder. You don't understand, Mark. I'm not Emily. The world stopped. What? I whispered. She pointed at herself, her hand shaking. I'm not Emily. I'm Sarah. Emily was my twin sister, my identical twin. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The pool, the people, the sun, everything went fuzzy at the edges. No, I said. No, that's not your Emily. You're my wife. We've been together for 3 years. We have an apartment. We have a life. I took her life. Sarah, Emily, whoever she was, sobbed. I took her name. I took her identity. 3 years ago, I ran away from my life. I couldn't handle it anymore. My marriage was falling apart. I was drowning. And then I saw a picture of Emily, my dead sister, and I realized we looked exactly alike. And she'd been gone long enough that no one would question it. And I became her. I moved to Portland. I started over. And then I met you. She was saying words, but they weren't making sense. They couldn't be making sense. You're lying, I said. You're lying to him so he won't be mad. Emily, stop lying. I'm not lying, she screamed. My name is Sarah Chen. I was born in Sacramento. I went to UC Berkeley. I married David when I was 24. She gestured to the man standing next to her, who looked like he might be sick. And we have a daughter named Lily, who just turned 7 and thinks her mother abandoned her 3 years ago. Everything inside me shattered. You have a daughter? She nodded, sobbing. I left everything. I stole my dead sister's social security number, her birth certificate, her entire identity. I moved to Portland. I pretended to be Emily. And then I met you, and you were so kind, so good, and I thought maybe I could just start over, be someone new, but I couldn't. I can never be Emily, because Emily is dead. And I'm just Sarah, and I've destroyed everyone who ever loved me. The man, David, her real husband, was staring at her with an expression I recognized because I was wearing it too. Complete, utter devastation. You're alive? He whispered. All this time, you've been alive. She turned to him, reaching out, but he stepped back like she'd burned him. David, I'm sorry. You let me tell our daughter you were dead. His voice was rising now, shaking with rage. We had a funeral. Lily cried herself to sleep every night for 6 months. She's in therapy. She draws pictures of you as an angel. And you've been in Portland playing house with him? Sarah was sobbing too hard to speak now. I felt like I was watching this from outside my body. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. I need to see ID, I said suddenly. My voice sounded strange, detached. Show me your driver's license. Show me proof. Sarah, Emily, whoever she was, looked at me. Then she reached into the bag next to the cabana and pulled out a wallet. She handed it to me with shaking hands. I opened it. The driver's license was from California. The name, Sarah Chen. The photo, the woman I'd been married to for 2.5 years. Birth date, the 7th of April, 1989. The same birthday Emily had told me was hers, because they were twins. I looked at the other cards. Credit cards in the name Sarah Chen. A Costco membership. A library card. An insurance card with with David Chen listed as spouse. This whole wallet, this whole identity was real, which meant my Emily wasn't. I dropped the wallet. I couldn't hold it anymore. I need to sit down, I said, and then my legs gave out and I was on the ground, the hot concrete burning my palms, my chest heaving as I tried to breathe. Sarah, not Emily, Sarah, her name was Sarah, was saying something, but I couldn't hear it. There was a roaring in my ears. Someone was calling for help. The lifeguard was running over. The only thought in my head, repeating over and over, I didn't know her. I never knew her. My entire marriage was a lie. Hotel security escorted all three of us to a conference room off the main lobby. By then, I could stand again, though I felt like I might throw up at any moment. David sat on one side of the room, as far from Sarah as possible. I sat on the other side, equally distant. Sarah sat in the middle, alone, crying. A hotel manager, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, brought us water and said the police had been called just as a precaution. Then she left us alone. For a long time, nobody spoke. Finally, David said, "How long have you been planning to come back?" Sarah wiped her eyes. Her voice was hoarse. "I wasn't. Not really. I couldn't stay away anymore. I miss Lily so much it physically hurts. I dream about her every night." And I knew I was hurting Mark. She glanced at me and I looked away. I knew I was being distant because I couldn't keep living the lie. So I told him I needed a girls' weekend, and I came here. I was going to see you, David. I was going to tell you the truth. I was going to try to see Lily, just once, just to know she's okay. "She's not okay," David said, his voice cold. "She's devastated. She thinks her mother is dead." "I know. Do you? Do you really? Because you weren't there when she woke up screaming. You weren't there when she asked me why you didn't love her enough to stay. You weren't there for any of it." Sarah was crying again. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I finally found my voice. "Why?" It came out as barely a whisper. "Why did you do this to me? Why didn't you just stay, Sarah? Why, Emily?" She looked at me, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with. Vulnerable, honest. But it was all fake. It had always been fake. Because Emily was free, she said. Emily didn't have a failed marriage. She didn't have a daughter she was failing. She didn't have depression she couldn't shake. Emily was just gone. A clean slate. I could be anyone, so I became her. "But you used her death," I said, and now I was angry. "You stole her identity, her social security number, her whole life." "I know. That's fraud. That's illegal. I know. And what about me?" My voice broke. "What about our marriage? Was any of it real? Did you ever actually love me? Or was I just part of the costume?" She looked at me with those eyes I used to kiss goodnight and said, "I loved you. I do love you. That was real, Mark. Everything with you was real." "Don't," I said, standing up. "Don't you dare tell me it was real. Real people don't lie about their identity for 3 years. Real people don't marry someone under a false name. Real people don't abandon their 7-year-old daughter and play house across the country." I was shouting now, all the hurt and rage pouring out. "I thought I knew you. I thought we were building a life together. I was going to suggest we start trying for kids next year. Kids. Emily, Sarah, whoever you are. And the whole time, you already had one you left behind." She was sobbing too hard to respond. David spoke up, his voice hollow. "We need to call the police. She committed identity fraud. She faked her death. She abandoned our child." "I didn't fake my death," Sarah said. "I just disappeared. You assumed I was dead. Because your car was found at the bottom of a ravine," David exploded. "Because you left a note that sounded like suicide. Because you wanted us to think you were dead. Don't you dare act like this was some innocent mistake." I stared at her. "You faked your suicide?" She looked down. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was in a very dark place. I thought if I just disappeared, everyone would be better off. "I'm going to be sick," I said. And I was. I ran to a trash can in the corner and threw up everything in my stomach. When I finished, I heard David on the phone with the police. Sarah was still crying, and I was still trying to understand how the woman I'd married, the woman I'd built my entire adult life around, had never existed at all. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female, took statements from all 3 of us separately. When it was my turn, I told them everything. The surprise trip, the confrontation, the revelation. The male officer, Officer Hernandez, took notes and looked sympathetic. "This is complicated," he said when I finished. "Identity fraud is a crime, but proving intent can be difficult, especially if she's been using her sister's identity with legitimate documents." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we'll investigate, but I can't promise an arrest tonight. We need to verify her story, contact authorities in California, check records. So she just gets to walk away?" He sighed. "Not walk away, but we can't hold her without charging her, and we don't have enough yet. I'm sorry, Mr. Harris. I know this is difficult." Difficult. That was one word for it. They questioned Sarah for over an hour. When she came out, she looked pale and exhausted. David refused to look at her. "We're heading back to California tonight," David said to the officers. "With or without her?" "Without," Sarah said quietly. I'm not ready to see Lily yet. Not like this." David's jaw tightened. "You're unbelievable. I need to talk to Mark first," Sarah said. "Alone, please." "No," I said immediately. "No, I don't want to talk to you. Mark Mark, please. I owe you an explanation, a real one. You've explained enough. But the officers were already leaving, and David was walking out behind them. And suddenly it was just Sarah and me in the conference room, alone for the first time since my world had imploded. I met David when I was 22, Sarah said. She was sitting across from me, her hands wrapped around a cup of water she wasn't drinking. We got married 2 years later, had Lily when I was 25. From the outside, we were perfect. The American dream. I didn't say anything. I just stared at the wall behind her. But I had postpartum depression after Lily was born. Really bad. I couldn't get out of bed some days. David tried to help, but he was working constantly. He's a software engineer. Ridiculous hours. And I felt so alone, so inadequate. Like I was failing at the only thing I was supposed to be good at. She paused, waiting for me to respond. I didn't. When Lily turned 4, David's company transferred him to Miami. We moved, and I thought maybe a fresh start would help, but it didn't. I got worse. I started having panic attacks. I couldn't sleep. I'd look at Lily and feel nothing but terror that I was ruining her life just by being her mother. So you left, I said flatly. Not at first. First, I tried therapy, medication, everything the doctors suggested, and some days were okay. But most days I felt like I was drowning, and David started to resent me. We'd fight about everything. He said I wasn't even trying to get better, that I was being selfish, and maybe he was right. This isn't an excuse, I said. Nothing you're saying justifies what you did. I know. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just trying to help you understand. I don't want to understand. I want to know why you lied to me. Why you dragged me into this insanity. She was quiet for a moment. Because I wanted to be someone else. Someone who wasn't broken. And Emily, my sister, she'd always been the strong one. The confident one. When we were kids, people could barely tell us apart physically. But personality-wise, we were completely different. She was everything I wasn't. And she died. Car accident. 5 years ago. She was driving home from a work event. Hit black ice. Went off the road. Died instantly. Sarah's voice was mechanical. Like she'd told this story 100 times. I went to her funeral. Saw her in the casket. It was like looking at myself dead. And something in me just broke. So you decided to become her. Not right away. But the idea was there. In the back of my mind. And 2 years later, when things with David got so bad, I couldn't stand it anymore. When I looked at Lily and felt nothing but failure, I remembered Emily. How she'd been free. How her death had been this tragic final ending. And I thought, what if I could have an ending too? What if I could just stop being Sarah, the terrible wife and mother, and become someone new? My hands were shaking. You're insane. Probably, she agreed. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was having suicidal thoughts, Mark. Real ones. I'd sit in my car and think about driving it into a wall. But I couldn't do that to Lily. I couldn't make her grow up knowing her mother killed herself. So I found another way. I staged my disappearance. Made it look like an accident. Left a note that was ambiguous enough that it could be read as suicidal. Then I drove my car to a ravine, sent it over the edge, and walked away. I felt sick again. Jesus Christ. I had Emily's documents. Social security card. Birth certificate. She'd never married, never had kids. Her identity was just sitting there, unused. So I took it. I moved to Portland, a place neither David nor Emily had ever lived, where no one would know me. I dyed my hair a little darker, changed my style, became Emily Hartwell. And then you met me 3 months later at that coffee shop. You were so kind, Mark. So genuine. You made me laugh for the first time in years. And I thought, maybe this can work. Maybe I can really start over. So you married me under a false identity. Yes, which makes our marriage illegal. She flinched. I didn't think about that at the time. You didn't think about a lot of things. I was shouting now. You didn't think about me, about what this would do to me when the truth came out. You just used me as a prop in your fake life. No, she stood up, crying again. No, that's not true. I loved you, Mark. I still love you. You saved me. You gave me a reason to keep living. With you, I felt like maybe I wasn't a complete failure. Maybe I could be someone worth loving by lying to me every single day for 3 years. Yes, she whispered. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I stood up too, backing toward the door. I can't do this. I can't be here with you. Mark, please. No, we're done. Whatever we were, whatever I thought we were, it's done. I walked out of the conference room, out of the hotel, and kept walking until I couldn't breathe. I ended up on the beach, sitting in the sand, watching the waves, trying to piece together the shattered remains of my reality. My wife wasn't my wife. She was someone else's wife, someone else's mother, and I was nobody to her. Just a stranger she'd fooled into loving a ghost. I flew back to Portland the next day. I didn't tell Sarah I couldn't even think of her as Emily anymore. I just checked out of the hotel and left. David had already gone back to California with plans to contact a lawyer. I needed to do the same. The apartment felt wrong when I got home. Everything in it was a lie. The photos on the walls, us at the coast, us at my brother's wedding, us laughing at some farmer's market, they were all fake. The woman in those photos didn't exist. I took them all down and threw them in a box. Then I called a divorce attorney. This is an unusual case. The lawyer Barbara Chen, no relation to Sarah, thank God, said when I explained the situation. Technically, your marriage might not be legally valid if she married you under a false identity, but we'll need to verify that. So I might not even be married? replied. It's possible. If she used fraudulent documents to obtain the marriage license, the marriage could be annulled. But it's complicated. We'll need to file a police report, gather evidence, and possibly pursue criminal charges against her for identity fraud. I don't want to press charges, I said. I just want out. Barbara looked at me over her glasses. Mr. Harris, I understand you're hurt, but this woman committed a serious crime, not just against you, but against the government, against her real family, potentially against her dead sister's estate. This isn't just a personal matter. I rubbed my face. I know. I don't want to be vindictive. This isn't about vindictiveness. It's about justice and protecting yourself. She could do this to someone else. I hadn't thought about that. What if she ran again? Became someone new? Destroyed another unsuspecting person's life? Okay, I said finally. Do whatever you think is right. Barbara nodded and started making notes. We'll start with the annulment paperwork, and I'll contact the authorities in California to coordinate on the fraud case. Do you know where she is now? No idea. Probably still in Miami, or maybe she ran again, but she hadn't run. 2 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mark? It was her. Sarah's voice, trembling, scared. How did you get this number? I asked. Then I realized. Of course she had my number. She'd been my wife. I'm in Portland, she said. I came back. I needed to. I needed to get my things. I know you probably changed the locks, but I just want my clothes, my laptop, then I'll be gone. Where are you staying? A hotel, the Marriott downtown. I should have hung up. Should have told her to have a lawyer contact my lawyer. But instead, I said, I'll meet you at the apartment in an hour. You can get your stuff. Thank you, she whispered. Mark, I hung up. She looked terrible when I let her into the apartment. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes I'd seen her in at the pool. She'd been crying. Hi, she said. Hi. We stood there awkwardly. This woman I'd woken up next to for nearly 3 years was now a stranger. I didn't know how to talk to her. Didn't know if I even should. I'll just get my things, she said, moving toward the bedroom. I followed her, not trusting her alone in the apartment. She pulled a suitcase from the closet, the same one she'd used for the Miami trip, and started packing. Clothes, shoes, toiletries. She moved mechanically, like she was on autopilot. Did you talk to David? I asked. She nodded, not looking at me. He's filing for divorce and custody. He doesn't want me anywhere near Lily. Can you blame him? No, her voice cracked. But it hurts. I gave up everything to run away from being her mother, and now I'd give anything to be in her life again. I'm such an idiot. I didn't disagree. She zipped the suitcase and turned to face me. I know you hate me. I know I destroyed your life, but I need you to know that everything I felt for you was real. The love, the happiness, the hope, that was all real. It wasn't though, I said, because you weren't real. Emily wasn't real. I fell in love with a character you played. No, she insisted. I was Emily with you. I became her. I felt like her. With you, I wasn't pretending. I was just being someone I wished I could be. That's not how it works, I said. You can't just decide to be someone else and expect it to count. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mark. Stop apologizing, I said, my voice cold. It doesn't change anything. She nodded, picked up her suitcase, and walked toward the door. Then she stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, she said, you deserved better. You deserved someone who could love you without lying. Someone real. I hope you find her. Then she left. I stood in the empty apartment, truly empty now, for the first time since she'd moved in, and felt the full weight of it. The silence, the absence, the hole where my life used to be. I was 32 years old. I'd been married to a woman who didn't exist. I'd built my entire adult life around a lie. And now I had to figure out how to start over. The annulment went through. The marriage was declared legally invalid due to fraud. Sarah was charged with identity theft and fraud in California, but she took a plea deal, probation, counseling, restitution to the state. She didn't go to jail. David got full custody of Lily. Sarah was granted supervised visitation twice a month after 6 months of therapy. I heard through Barbara that the visits were going okay. Lily was angry, confused, but slowly accepting that her mother was alive. I sold the apartment. Too many memories, too many ghosts. I moved to a smaller place in a different neighborhood and threw myself into work. My friends tried to set me up on dates, but I wasn't ready. Didn't know if I'd ever be ready. How do you trust anyone after that? How do you believe someone is who they say they are? I started going to therapy. My therapist, Dr. Brennan, said I had trust issues, no shit, and PTSD from the emotional trauma. She prescribed anti-anxiety medication and taught me grounding techniques for when the panic attacks hit. They hit a lot. Sometimes I'd be at the grocery store and I'd see a woman with dark hair, and for a split second, I'd think it was her, Emily, Sarah, whoever, and my heart would stop. Then I'd realize it wasn't, and I'd feel relief and disappointment in equal measure. I didn't love her anymore. I couldn't. How do you love someone who was never real? But I grieved. I grieved Emily, the woman I'd married, even though she'd never existed. I grieved the life we'd built, the future I'd imagined. I grieved the person I'd been before Miami, naive, trusting, happy. I was different now, harder, more cautious. Dr. Brennan said that was normal, but it didn't feel normal. It felt like Sarah had taken something from me I'd never get back. One day, about 7 months after Miami, I got an email from an unfamiliar address. Subject: I'm sorry, from sarachin1989@gmail.com. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity got the better of me. Mark, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. I know I have no right to contact you, but I've been in therapy for 6 months now, and my therapist suggested I write you a letter, not to ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve that, but to take accountability. I lied to you. I used you. I hurt you in ways I can never undo. You trusted me, loved me, and I betrayed that trust every single day for 3 years. There's no excuse for what I did, no explanation that makes it okay. I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and severe depression. I'm on medication now. I'm learning to cope with my emotions instead of running from them. I'm trying to be a better person for Lily, for David, for myself, but mostly, I want you to know that you didn't deserve what I did to you. You are a good man, Mark. Kind, patient, loving. Everything I did was about my brokenness, not about any failing in you. I hope you know that. I hope you found peace. I hope you found someone who can love you honestly. I'll never contact you again. This is goodbye. Sarah. I read the email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and sat in the quiet of my apartment feeling nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a profound sense of closure. She was gone. Emily was gone. That chapter of my life was over, and I was still here. Broken maybe, changed, definitely, but still here. I took a deep breath, opened my laptop again, and started typing. Sarah, thank you for your email. I appreciate the apology, though it doesn't change anything. I'm glad you're getting help. I'm glad you're trying to be better. For what it's worth, I hope you succeed. For Lily's sake, if nothing else. You were right. I didn't deserve what happened, but I'm learning to move on. I'm learning to trust again, slowly. I'm learning that not everyone is lying, even if you were. I won't say I forgive you. I'm not there yet. Maybe I never will be, but I don't hate you anymore. I just feel sorry for you, for both of us, for the life that could have been if you'd been honest. Goodbye, Sarah. I hope you find peace too. Mark. I hit send before I could second guess myself. Then I closed the laptop, grabbed my keys, and went for a run. The Portland rain was just starting, cold and steady, and I ran until my lungs burned and my legs ached, and I couldn't think about anything except the rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement. By the time I got home, I felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but lighter. And for now, that was enough.